All right. So are you ready to really boost your English fluency? I mean, take it to that next level.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Well, today we're diving deep into phrasal verbs.
Those are essential.
They really are. They're like the secret code to sounding really natural,
Yes.
Especially if you're already pretty comfortable with the basics of English.
Right, you got to get those phrasal verbs down.
Exactly.
And what I think is so fascinating about them is the way they kind of weave themselves into just like everyday English.
Yeah, it's like you can't escape them, can you?
No, you can't. And they're not just about casual chit-chat.
Right.
They pop up everywhere. We'll see them in professional settings, travel scenarios, even when you're talking about learning new things or improving yourself.
Yeah, you're right. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
We've got 25 essential phrasal verbs to unpack today, and I'm telling you, you'll be surprised by how their meanings can shift depending on the situation.
Yeah, it's true. It's like sometimes the same phrasal verb can have so many different meanings.
Right.
It's like they're these little chameleons
Right.
blending in, adding that extra layer of meaning.
Subtle mastery, huh?
Yes. That's what sets apart a fluent speaker.
For sure. So let's start with those everyday conversations, the ones we have all the time. Like I'm thinking about turn up and run into. They seem so simple on the surface.
Right. Yeah.
But I bet there's more to them than meets the eye.
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Take turn up, for example.
Okay.
If someone says he didn't turn up for the meeting, that kind of has a negative connotation to it,
Yeah.
right?
You're like, where were you?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Implies a lack of responsibility. Maybe even like a little bit of disrespect.
For sure.
But, if you're at a party and the volume's too low, you might say, can you turn up the music?
Yeah, that's true.
Same verb, totally different vibe, right?
It is. It's like the context around the phrasal verb, it colors it, gives it that extra layer of meaning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And run into kind of has that element of chance, like surprise. If you say, I ran into an old friend, that paints a much more vivid picture than just saying oh, I met an old friend.
Right. I see what you mean.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. You can almost feel the surprise and joy in that encounter.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit here. Let's talk about the work and business category.
Okay.
And I noticed in this section, look into and come up with. These are verbs you'd probably hear, in an office setting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe in a boardroom. Who knows?
Yeah. Boardroom, meeting. These verbs are all about clarity and action in a professional setting.
Right. Being efficient.
Efficient. Yeah. If you say we need to look into this issue that sounds a lot more, proactive. It's more decisive than just saying we need to investigate.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And come up with, that one's all about that creative problem solving.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
I like that. So it's almost like these phrasal verbs cut through all the fluff.
Yes.
They just get straight to the point, which is so important at work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Especially in a fast-paced environment.
Yeah. And imagine you're in a meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And you're struggling to express those key actions.
It would be painful.
Yeah. So mastering these, can make you a much more effective communicator at work.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's get ready to explore the world a little bit. Travel and socializing. When it comes to this, I thought about pick up and drop off.
Yes.
They're essential for getting around, making plans,
Absolutely. I mean, think about that classic travel phrase. Can you pick me up from the airport?
It's so common.
Yeah. It's direct. It's clear. It gets the message across.
Effortless.
Yeah, effortless. Yeah. And drop off too. I'll drop you off at the station on my way. Makes, coordinating plans so much smoother.
Yeah, super smooth.
What's
interesting about those two is it highlights the social aspect of language,
I know.
If you offer to pick someone up or drop them off, it's more than just the action, It kind of conveys a sense of, I don't know, helpfulness, consideration.
Right, you're going out of your way for them a little.
Exactly. Okay, and speaking of subtle shifts in meaning, check-in. That one seems to have multiple personalities.
Oh, it does, doesn't it?
Depending on the context.
It does.
Right.
You've hit the nail on the head there. Check in at a hotel, that's a formal procedure, right? Yeah. But if you say check in with a friend, that's just casual.
Totally different.
It implies that you care.
Right. You're just seeing how they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a perfect example of how, phrasal verbs just adapt and evolve, They just change.
Yes. Yes, they do. They do.
Depending on the situation. All right, it's time to level up our skills even more. Learning and self-improvement. I'm intrigued by catch up on and figure out, they seem to capture the essence of personal growth.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they really do. Catch up on, that kind of implies that you're making an effort, right?
Yeah.
Like a conscious effort to, stay current, expand your knowledge.
Yeah, it's like active learning.
Yes. And figure out, has that problem-solving vibe, right?
It's like that aha moment.
Yes. It's about overcoming challenges, pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone.
Which is part of personal development, right?
Absolutely. Embracing those aha moments.
Yeah.
And recognizing that, learning it's a journey.
It never ends.
It never ends. What's fascinating is how these verbs kind of empower you to talk about your learning journey.
Yeah, to actually articulate it.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
So thinking about those learning goals, is there a particular phrasal verb from this category that resonates with you right now?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Something that you could see yourself using, in your self-improvement journey.
Let me think. I think figure out, actually. I like that one because, I am always trying to figure out new ways to approach problems.
Yeah.
Or just learn from my experiences.
Absolutely.
It's a verb that shows that continuous growth.
Yes.
Which I find motivating, It never stops.
It never stops.
So I like that one.
It's figure out becomes a reminder to just stay curious.
Right.
And embrace that whole learning process.
Yeah, exactly. And you never know what you're gonna learn next when you're trying to figure things out.
Exactly.
I like that.
That's a good one.
It really is amazing how much meaning these little verbs pack. They really make our communication so much more dynamic.
They do, yeah. It's like they unlock fluency somehow.
Yeah.
Make English sound, more natural.
Speaking of unlocking things,
Yeah.
I have a fun idea.
Okay.
How about we do a little quiz just to test what we know about these phrasal verbs so far?
Oh, I love a quiz.
Yeah.
Let's do it. See if our listeners have been paying attention.
Okay, first question. Imagine you're working on a project and it's just not going anywhere. You finally decide to just stop working on it completely.
All the time.
Right. So which phrasal verb would you use? Would you say that you gave up on the project or looked into it or maybe turned up at the meeting?
Okay, so we're looking for the verb that means to just stop completely, abandon it.
Exactly. And the answer is
Gave up.
gave up. Yeah.
Yeah, you gave up on that project.
It definitely doesn't feel good, but
Yeah.
it happens. Sometimes things just don't work out.
It's a fact of life.
Yeah.
All right, ready for the next question?
Get me with it.
Okay, so imagine you're trying to understand a really complex problem.
Yeah.
And you want to get to the root of it, all the little details.
Okay, so you're really trying to solve it, not just scratch the surface.
Exactly, yeah. So which phrasal verb fits best here? Would you figure out the problem, go over the details, or run into a solution?
So this is all about being really analytical, right? Really digging into the problem.
Yes, exactly. Thinking it through.
So the answer must be
Go over.
go over. That's right.
Yeah, you're going over all the details.
Okay, last question. You're getting ready to give a presentation
Okay.
and you want to practice it beforehand. Which verb describes that? Would you show up at the presentation, come up with a new idea, or maybe run through your speech?
This one is all about getting ready,
Yeah.
Rehearsing, making sure you know everything.
Yeah. Making sure it all flows, all the pieces are in place.
Exactly. So the answer has to be
Run through.
run through.
Yeah.
You got to run through that presentation.
Make sure you're prepared for anything.
Exactly.
Well done, listeners. You guys are pros. You're really getting the hang of these verbs.
You're going to be fluent in no time.
But this is just the beginning. I mean, there's so much more out there, when it comes to phrasal verbs.
Oh, yeah. So many. It's like a whole other world.
It is like another level of fluency.
It is.
So before we finish our deep dive today, I want to talk about how to actually make these 25 verbs part of your everyday English.
Yeah.
It's one thing to understand them,
Right.
but how do you actually use them naturally,
That's the real challenge. It's all about bridging that gap between knowledge and actually applying it.
Yeah.
The good news is with phrasal verbs, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Just pay attention to how native speakers use them in conversations, in movies, and songs.
Yeah, that's good advice. Like, just be more aware.
Be more aware. Yeah, you'll start to notice patterns and kind of pick up on the nuances.
Yeah, it's like immersive learning, you know?
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
Try using these phrasal verbs in your own conversations.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You might stumble a bit at first.
Yeah, of course.
But that's okay. That's all part of the learning process.
Right, you're not going to get it perfect the first time.
Exactly. Yeah. But the more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
Of course. It's like anything, right? Practice makes perfect.
Exactly.
But sometimes just like jumping in can be a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips to make the learning process a bit more, I don't know, organized?
Oh, absolutely. Like a great technique is to use flashcards.
Oh, yeah.
Like write the phrasal verb on one side and then maybe like an example sentence on the other.
Yeah, classic.
Classic, yeah. That way you're not just like memorizing the definition. You're actually seeing it in action.
Right. You see how it works in a sentence.
Exactly, yeah. Another good strategy is to keep like a phrasal verb journal.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Every time you encounter a new one, just jot it down.
Yeah, like your own personal dictionary.
Exactly. And you can add an example sentence too.
Yeah.
You'll be amazed at how quickly your vocabulary will grow.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Before we wrap up completely, I'm just curious, do you have like a go-to phrasal verb? One that you just use all the time?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I think mine would probably be breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
It's so versatile. You can break down a problem, you can break down a concept, you can even break down a wall.
Yeah, it's true.
It just means to analyze something, make it more simple, make it more manageable.
Yeah, and it works in so many situations. I think that's what's so cool about phrasal verbs, right?
Yeah.
They're adaptable.
Yes.
And once you start using them, your English just sounds so much more natural.
It really does.
Yeah.
So just remember, this deep dive, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Yes. Learning should be fun.
It should be fun, yeah.
Yeah.
The more you enjoy it, the more you'll learn.
Absolutely. So as you go about your day-to-day, what phrasal verbs are you going to try to use?
Yeah, good question.
Will you brush up on your skills? Will you look out for some new opportunities?
I might try to dream up a new adventure.
Ooh, I like that one. The possibilities are endless.
They are. It's been so fun diving into the world of phrasal verbs with you.
It has been.
Happy learning, everyone.
And that's a wrap on our exploration of these fascinating little, bundles of words. We hope you feel inspired to embrace phrasal verbs, make them a part of your everyday English, because fluency is a journey, not a destination, right? And every step you take brings you closer to mastering this amazing language. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something that I think we can all relate to. Those pesky words and phrases, the ones that we should probably just get rid of for good.
Yeah.
We all want to be better communicators, right?
Right.
And sometimes it's the little things that can really trip us up. So we found this really cool article. It's called 33 Words and Phrases to Remove from Your Vocabulary Immediately. And I'm super curious what jumped out at you when you saw this list.
It is interesting, isn't it, how we use these phrases without even realizing how they make other people see us. I think what really stood out to me was this section on filler words, all the ums and likes and knows that we all use.
Oh, yeah. We all know those ones. But what I thought was really interesting was that they pointed out a couple that I never even thought of as filler words before. Words like just and basically.
It's subtle, but they can really take away from what you're saying. Like instead of saying, I just wanted to ask a quick question, you can say, I have a question. It just sounds so much more confident, more direct. It's like you're trying to make your question seem less important even before you've asked it.
Oh, wow.
It's almost like you're apologizing for even asking.
Yeah, it's like we're apologizing for having a thought. And basically, what's wrong with that one? I use that all the time.
If you think about it, basically just adds extra fluff you don't need. It's like saying, I'm going to tell you something, but first I'm going to tell you that I'm going to tell you something.
Oh, you're so right. It's so indirect, and it's like you're not even sure about what you're going to say, which actually kind of brings us to another point. Those words and phrases that make you sound less confident. Things like, I think, or hopefully, or maybe. What's going on there? Why do we use those?
Well, there's actually been a ton of research on this. It usually boils down to wanting to soften what we're saying or not wanting to come off too strong.
Yeah.
Like we're afraid of being wrong or being judged or maybe stepping on someone's toes.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, especially at work, right? Where you don't want to seem too aggressive or anything.
Yeah.
But I wonder if there's also a sort of societal pressure too, like especially for women. They're kind of expected to be more accommodating and less assertive.
There's definitely a societal pressure there. And I think it's something we should all be more aware of and try to push back against. But the good news is this article gives us some really good ways to rephrase these phrases that make us sound less confident. So like instead of saying, I think we should consider this, you can just say, we should consider this. It just sounds way more confident.
I am so guilty of that one. What about those phrases that sound like you're always looking for someone to agree with you? Like, does that make sense? I think we all do that sometimes, especially when we're explaining something complicated.
It makes sense to want to make sure people are following you, but if you do it too mono, it can actually make you seem less credible. So instead of saying, does that make sense? Try saying something like, I hope this explanation is clear. It gets the same point across without sounding like you need someone to tell you you're doing a good job.
That's a really subtle difference, but I can see how it would make a big impact. Maybe we should all try to pay more attention to how we're using these phrases.
Yeah.
Have you noticed yourself using any of these confidence killers in your own conversations?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think we all do it sometimes. It's all about being more aware of it and making a choice to use more powerful language. And that actually brings us to another category of phrases that can really make a difference in how people see you. Apologetic language.
You mean like the apology trap?
Yeah.
I've heard so much about this. It's amazing to me how often we say sorry, even when we haven't done anything wrong.
Right.
It's like we're apologizing for existing, for like taking up space or having needs.
Yeah, exactly. And you see it a lot with certain groups, especially women. There's this pressure to be more accommodating and less assertive. But if you apologize all the time, it can actually make what you're saying seem less important.
The article gives a really great example of this. Instead of saying, sorry to bother you, but can I ask a question? You could just say, may I ask a question? You don't have to apologize for wanting to learn something.
It's such a small change, but it can make you sound so much more confident. And it just shows that you don't need to apologize for simply existing or asking a question.
Right. Have you ever been on the receiving end of that? Like someone is constantly apologizing and it makes you feel like you have to reassure them that it's okay to just exist or ask a question.
Oh, for sure. It's like it creates this weird dynamic. And I think it can be contagious too. Like if one person is always apologizing, it makes everyone else feel like they need to apologize too, even if they haven't done anything wrong.
It really is. It's like we're all shrinking ourselves and our ideas, especially at work. Which actually kind of reminds me of another category of words we should probably avoid. Vague phrases.
Oh, yeah. The kind ofs and sort ofs and all that stuff.
Right. But isn't there a time and a place for being vague? Like if you're not really sure about something or you don't want to give a definite answer.
There's definitely a difference between being diplomatic and being vague. But when you're intentionally vague, it can lead to misunderstandings and confusion. Think about it. Have you ever gotten like an email or a text message that was so vague that you had no idea what the person was trying to say?
Oh, all the time. It's so frustrating.
Exactly.
And this article points out a few vague phrases that are just the worst. Like, it is what it is.
Ugh, I know.
I hate that one. It just sounds so defeatist.
Right. Like you're just giving up before you've even tried.
Exactly. So what's a better way to deal with a tough situation?
Instead of just accepting it, why not focus on what you can do? You could say something like, here's how we can approach this, or let's look at some other options. It puts the focus on action instead of just giving up.
Okay, yeah, that's much better. It's about taking charge instead of just letting things happen. And even simple phrases like kind of or sort of can make you sound unsure of yourself.
Imagine you're trying to sell a new idea at work and you say, I'm kind of excited about this project. It just doesn't have the same impact as saying, I'm excited about this project.
Right.
By getting rid of those little words, you're saying what you really mean more directly, more confidently.
Yeah, it's like those little words create this barrier between you and what you're trying to say. And speaking of barriers, this leads us to another group of words that can really get in the way of good communication. Jargon.
The jargon jungle.
I think we've all been lost in there at some point.
It can be so confusing, especially if you're new to a field or trying to learn something new.
It really is. And sometimes I wonder if people use jargon just to sound smart or to fit in, even if it makes what they're saying harder to understand.
Oh, definitely. Jargon can be a way of showing that you belong to a certain group, but the problem is it often makes it harder for people to understand you.
The article calls out some of the classic examples of overused business jargon. Think outside the box is one that comes to mind immediately.
Yeah.
It's become so cliche that it's lost all meaning.
It's like saying, be creative, but I'm not going to tell you how.
So how do we escape the jargon trap? What are some better ways to say these things?
Instead of think outside the box, try being more specific about what you mean. You could say something like, let's challenge our assumptions, or let's come up with some unusual approaches.
I like those. And I think it's important to remember that jargon can be different depending on what industry you're in. What might be common jargon in one field could be totally foreign in another. What are some other jargon phrases that drive you crazy?
Circle back is one that always gets me.
Yes.
It's such a roundabout way of saying, we'll talk about this later.
Just see what you mean.
Right.
And synergy. That word gets thrown around so much that I'm not even sure what it means anymore.
Synergy has become such a buzzword. It's lost all meaning.
It's like it's supposed to be this magical solution to every problem. Have you ever been in a meeting where someone says synergy and everyone just nods along like they know what it means, but secretly you're all thinking, what the heck is synergy?
Oh yeah, all the time. It shows how important it is to just ask for clarification when you don't understand something. Don't be afraid to say, I don't get it. Can you explain that?
That's such great advice. I think sometimes we're afraid to ask because we don't want to look stupid.
Yeah.
But really, it just shows that you're paying attention and you want to learn.
Exactly. And that actually leads to another important part of communication that goes beyond just the words we use. We've been talking about what we say, but it's also important to think about how we say it. Our tone of voice, our body language, our listening skills, all of that plays a role.
Yeah, it's about the whole picture, right?
Right. Imagine you're giving a presentation at work and you've got this amazing message, but you're speaking in a monotone voice, not making eye contact and slouching over the podium. It doesn't matter how good your words are if your body language is saying something totally different.
It's like we're sabotaging ourselves without even knowing it. So how can we be more aware of our body language and make sure it's matching what we're saying?
Well, it all starts with just paying attention to yourself. Like, notice how you're standing, your facial expressions, how your voice sounds. Are you coming across as confident and interested? Or are you giving off vibes that you're not sure of yourself or you don't really care?
Oh, I know. I've been in situations where I thought I was projecting confidence, but looking back, I bet my body language was totally giving away how nervous I was.
Yeah, we've all been there. The important thing is to recognize when that's happening and try to make a conscious effort to change it. So if you're feeling nervous, try to focus on standing up straight, making eye contact, and speaking clearly and evenly.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about listening? Any tips for being a better listener? Not just hearing the words, but really understanding what the other person is trying to say.
Active listening is so important for good communication. It's about being present in the conversation, paying attention to what the person is saying, both with their words and their body language, and asking questions to make sure you understand their point of view.
It's like we need to put on our detective hats and look for clues beyond just the words themselves.
Exactly. And when you really listen to someone, it shows them that you respect what they have to say. It builds trust and strengthens relationships.
That's so true. I think it's easy to get caught up in our own heads and forget to really tune in to what other people are saying. So to bring it all back to our listeners today, how can they use this information to become better communicators?
I think the first step is just to be more aware of your own habits. Notice the words and phrases you use all the time. Are they helping you or hurting you?
Yeah, like holding up a mirror to how we communicate and seeing if anything needs to be adjusted.
Right. And once you've figured out what you want to change, it's all about practice. Make a conscious effort to replace those words and phrases with something better, something more powerful and more authentic.
And don't be afraid to try different things. See what works for you in different situations.
Exactly. Communicating is a skill. And like any skill, you have to practice to get better at it.
It's a journey, not a destination, right? We're all constantly learning and growing as communicators.
Oh, true.
So to wrap up our deep dive into the words we should banish from our vocabulary, I think the biggest takeaway is that even small changes can have a big impact. By being more mindful of the words we use, our tone of voice, and our body language, we can all become more confident, clear, and persuasive communicators.
Absolutely. The words we choose matter. They shape how people see us, how we connect with each other, and how well we achieve our goals.
So here's a challenge for our listeners. Pick one word or phrase from our list today and try to stop using it this week. Pay attention to how it feels to use a different word. Do you feel more confident? Do people react to you differently?
I love that. It's amazing how much of a difference even a small change can make.
And one final thought. Today we focused on spoken language. But what about when we write? Our emails, texts, social media posts. It's something to think about. How can we bring that same awareness and intention to our writing?
That's such a good point. What we write can be just as important as what we say, maybe even more so. It's worth taking the time to really think about what we're writing and make sure it reflects who we are and what we want to say.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored language and communication. Until next time, happy communicating. All right, let's level up those communication skills today. Ready to dive into cross-cultural conversations.
Always ready for a good conversation.
We're looking at this article called 12 Phrases You Should Never Say to Native Speakers. And I think everyone listening can relate to this. I know I've definitely made some of these mistakes.
Oh, absolutely. We all have. It's like a minefield out there sometimes. You never know what's going to accidentally cause offense.
And the thing is, it's not always about being intentionally rude, right?
Yeah.
It's about understanding the subtle ways our words can impact others, especially when we're navigating different cultures and languages.
It's about building those genuine connections, showing respect, even if we make a mistake.
Right. So let's unpack this article. What kind of conversational gems can we unearth today? And right off the bat, there's a pattern that jumps out at me. A lot of these problematic phrases start with you. Things like, you speak too fast, or you don't look nationality, or even, your English is so good.
It's so true. And it's interesting, isn't it? It's like we're putting the other person under a microscope, making judgments without even realizing it.
Yeah, instead of trying to understand their perspective, we just put them on the spot.
Exactly. So let's break down some examples. Take, you speak too fast. The article points out that this is often more about our own listening skills than their speaking pace.
It's about us taking responsibility.
Right. Instead of you speak too fast, we could simply say, could you repeat that more slowly, please?
It's a subtle shift, but it makes a world of difference, don't you think?
Huge difference. It changes the whole tone.
And what about something like, your language is so hard? Have you heard that one before?
All the time. And honestly, I've probably said it myself without thinking, but it can come across as so dismissive. Like their whole culture is something to be feared or avoided.
It's like if someone told you that your native language was difficult and strange. Wouldn't feel great, would it?
Not at all. Instead of judging their language, we could express some genuine interest. Maybe something like, I'm finding this one aspect challenging, but I'm really enjoying learning your language.
Yeah, I like that. You're acknowledging the difficulty, but showing that you appreciate their culture and language.
Exactly. And, you might even find that they're happy to share their own experiences. Maybe they've struggled with languages too. It can lead to a much deeper conversation.
Totally. All right, here's another one that I think a lot of us have probably heard or even said. You don't look nationality.
Oh, that's a tough one. It's like we're challenging their whole identity based on our own limited perceptions.
Reducing them to a stereotype instead of seeing them as an individual.
Exactly. The article suggests just avoiding comments on appearance altogether, especially when it comes to their nationality.
It's just not our place to make those judgments.
Right. And, we often make these comments without any bad intentions, but it's important to be aware of the impact.
Absolutely. So there's definitely a common thread here with these you statements. We need to move beyond those surface-level chit-chats and recognize that the words we choose, they can really make a difference.
They can build bridges or create barriers.
For sure. And I think this is already making me rethink some of my own conversational habits. There's so much more to unpack here. What other phrases should we avoid in cross-cultural conversations?
Well, let's move on to some phrases that dive into respecting individuality. Avoiding assumptions about people's lives. Like, have you ever been asked, do you know random person from their country?
Oh, all the time. It's like assuming everyone from a particular country is part of this giant social club. It always makes me cringe a little bit.
Right. It's like because they're from the same country, they must know each other.
It's just crazy.
And, it really highlights how we tend to put cultures in a box, forgetting about their diversity and just how vast they really are. It's like asking someone from a small town if they're best friends with the mayor, Just because they share a location doesn't mean they have this personal connection.
Yeah. Like, I'm from Canada. Does that mean I'm best friends with Justin Trudeau? Of course not.
Exactly. And it completely disregards their own individual experiences and relationships. So instead of that awkward question, what does the article suggest?
Well, they recommend something much more thoughtful, like, I heard about this specific person or topic related to your country. What do you think about them?
Ooh, I like that.
It shows genuine interest, but it's still respectful of their individual perspective.
Yeah, you're not assuming they know everyone and everything. You're actually engaging them in a conversation.
Exactly. All right, here's another one that I think we've all probably heard or even said at some point. Your English is so good for a foreigner.
Ah, yes, the classic backhanded compliment.
It's like we're surprised they could speak English fluently.
Like we're setting this lower bar based on their background.
Yeah, and it reinforces this idea that English is the default and everyone else is just trying to catch up. What's a better way to say it?
How about you're very fluent?
I like it.
Yeah.
Simple and straight to the point.
It focuses on their actual skills instead of their perceived limitations.
All right, now this next phrase really made me stop and think. It's about how we view language. Have you ever heard someone say, why don't you speak your native language perfectly?
Wow, that's a tough one. Who gets to decide what perfect language even is?
Exactly. Like there's some objective standard.
Right. Languages are constantly evolving, and there are so many dialects and variations.
So it's like saying someone should be penalized for having a regional accent.
Yeah, it ignores the beauty and richness of just how different we all are.
So what does the article recommend in this situation?
Well, they recommend avoiding comments on their native language skills altogether unless they bring it up themselves.
Makes sense.
It's about respecting their own individual linguistic journey, not critiquing it.
Yeah. I'm really seeing a theme emerge here. We've talked about the you problem, respecting individuality, and now it's like we're moving towards cultural curiosity instead of cultural critique.
You're picking up on it for sure. The article talks about approaching these conversations with a positive, inquisitive mindset.
Yeah. Instead of pointing out what someone's doing wrong based on our own cultural norms, we should try to understand why they do things differently.
What can we learn from their approach?
Exactly. So instead of judging or correcting, we should be asking questions.
Showing genuine interest. So, for example, instead of saying, that's not how we do it, we could say, that's interesting. Tell me more about how things work in your culture.
Okay, I like that. So what are some other examples of phrases that might fall into this category of cultural critique?
Well, one that often comes to mind is, can you teach me some bad words?
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one a lot.
It kind of makes light of their language, doesn't it?
It does. It's like saying their language is only interesting if it can teach me how to be offensive.
And you know, there are so many other ways to express genuine interest in their language.
Like what?
How about, what are some phrases that locals often use?
Oh, that's so much better. It shows you're actually interested in learning about their culture.
And another common one that can be a bit intrusive is, how much money do you make?
Oh, yeah. That's a definite no-go.
It's way too personal, and it can be considered rude in so many cultures.
So instead of prying into their personal finances, what could we ask instead?
Maybe ask about the job market in their country, or what career opportunities are common in their field. Keep the conversation a little broader.
Right. You're showing interest, but respecting those boundaries.
Okay. Now here's one that a lot of people might not even realize is offensive. Your accent is funny.
Ooh, I've been guilty of that one.
I think we've all chuckled at someone's accent before without realizing how hurtful it could be. It's easy to forget how personal language is.
Like you're making fun of who they are.
Exactly. So instead of that, what if we just expressed genuine curiosity? You could say, I like your accent. Where is it from?
You're turning a potential insult into a conversation starter.
You got it. It's all about that mindset shift. From critique to curiosity, recognizing that everyone's accent tells a story.
It's like each accent is a little piece of their history and their journey.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about what not to say, but I'm curious, what can we do to actively bridge that gap in cross-cultural conversations?
Yeah. What are the positive steps?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Instead of saying things like, you're so lucky to be a native speaker, which can downplay their own efforts and challenges, what if we show genuine interest by saying, it must be interesting growing up with English as your first language?
That's a much better way to acknowledge their experience.
And instead of saying, that's not how we say it in my country, which can be dismissive, we can say, that's an interesting way to say it. I'd love to learn more about how expressions work here.
I love that. You're turning a potential disagreement into a learning opportunity.
And finally, instead of saying you wouldn't understand, which completely shuts down the conversation, we can explain our own perspective by saying, let me explain, it's a bit different in my culture.
It acknowledges the difference but keeps the conversation flowing.
Exactly. All of these subtle shifts, they're about so much more than just words.
It's about listening, being open, and showing respect.
You got it. It's about recognizing that we all have something to learn from each other.
Okay, we're back, ready to wrap up this deep dive into cross-cultural conversations.
Lots of good stuff to review.
We've gone from those you statements all the way to that mindset shift from critique to curiosity. So much to consider.
It's like a whole new way of thinking about how we talk to people from other cultures.
Definitely. So let's boil it down to the essentials. What are the key things to keep in mind?
Well, I'd say first and foremost, be mindful of your language. We saw how even those little phrases can have a big impact, especially when we're talking about identity or culture.
It's almost like a whole new set of rules to learn. But the results are worth it, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just the words themselves. Active listening is huge. It's not just waiting for your turn to speak. It's really trying to grasp their perspective.
Putting our assumptions aside for a minute.
Right. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Genuine curiosity goes a long way in bridging cultural gaps.
Instead of assuming we know everything, we get to learn directly from them.
Exactly. And look, we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, and that's okay.
I think sometimes we try so hard to be politically correct that we forget to just be ourselves.
Authenticity is key. People can tell when you're genuinely interested, even if you slip up here and there.
It's all about being open to learning from our mistakes, isn't it?
Absolutely. If there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's to be mindful, be curious, and be yourself. Embrace those conversations.
That's such great advice. We've given everyone a lot to think about.
Remember, our differences are what make the world so interesting.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey into cross-cultural communication. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those conversations going.
The world's full of incredible people with stories to share. Just be ready to listen. Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're talking all about how to nail those job interviews in English.
Okay.
We've got this awesome guide, right?
Yes.
And it's got like over 50 phrases, but we're going to go deeper. We're not just going to read the phrases to you. We want to like really understand why they work and how you can use them to just really shine. You know what I mean?
It's all about that authenticity, right?
Yeah.
It's understanding what's behind the phrase.
Yeah.
Why is it effective? And then how do you use it? So it's not just you're like this robot spitting out these phrases.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. You walk in the door, you sit down, you've got that first impression, you've got the greeting and the intro. How important is this part?
It's crucial. It's like the first few seconds can really set the tone for the rest of the interview.
Okay, and this guide has some interesting phrases here. Like one of them is, I've been looking forward to discussing how my skills align with this position. So, I mean, does that little tweak really make that much of a difference?
Yeah, it does. It does, because instead of just saying like, hi, nice to meet you, you're already indicating that you're here to provide value, that you've thought about this, you've done your research, you understand what their needs are, and you're already positioning yourself as someone who can contribute to meeting those needs.
So it's not just about finding a job, it's about helping them with their problems almost.
Exactly. It shows that you've thought about this beyond just looking at their website for 2 minutes.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we've aced the greeting. Now comes the dreaded, tell me about yourself. And I feel like people just default to summarizing their resume.
Yeah, they tend to just kind of go through like,
Yeah.
a laundry list.
Right.
And it's like a missed opportunity. This is your chance to actually tell a story.
Oh.
Think about those key skills and experiences that you have that align with this role and that make you unique.
So instead of just saying, I have 5 years of experience in marketing, what would be a better way to say that?
Yeah, so you can actually use an example from the guide, which is, I'm a highly motivated marketing professional with 5 years of experience crafting and executing successful digital campaigns. So you're already giving them something concrete.
Oh, I like that. It paints a picture.
Exactly. Instead of just listing, you're actually showcasing the impact you've had.
I see. Okay. So moving on, we start getting into like the skills and strengths. And I feel like this is where people either exaggerate or just use vague language.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really good at this.
Exactly.
And you're like, okay, well, good. Doesn't mean anything to me.
Right. And that's where this guide really stresses using action-oriented verbs. Things like proficient in, or, excel at, demonstrated ability to, because you're actually showing, not just telling
Yeah.
what you can do.
Yeah, and it has some great examples here. Like, I'm proficient in using tools like Python, Tableau, and SQL for data visualization and analysis.
Yeah.
That sounds so much more impactful than just saying, I'm good with data.
Exactly, because now you're being specific. You're using their language.
Yeah.
You're checking off those boxes on their, what they're looking for wish list.
Right. And especially in today's job market where it's so competitive, you really need to make it clear that you've got the goods.
You have those skills that they're looking for.
Okay, so we've talked about ourselves, we've talked about our skills. Now I got to dive into like our work experience. How do we get beyond just like listing our job titles and what we did at each place?
This is where I really like that the guide talks about the STAR method. Have you heard of this?
I have, but I don't know if our listeners have.
Okay, so STAR stands for situation, task, action, result.
Okay.
And it's really helpful because it gives you a framework for telling these stories that showcase your achievements.
Right.
So instead of saying, I was responsible for project management, you can actually give a specific example.
Yeah.
So in my previous role at, Company X, I managed a complex software implementation project, leading a team of 5 to successfully deliver the project under budget and ahead of schedule.
Oh, I like that. So it's not just a task anymore. It's a whole story.
Exactly. It's a story with a beginning, middle, and end. And it also highlights all those great things that you did.
Right.
Leadership, delivering results.
Yeah. And the guide really stresses the importance of using quantifiable results. Like, don't just say, I improved sales. Say, I increased sales by 20%.
Exactly. The numbers are powerful.
They make it real.
Yes.
Okay, so now we come to the part that everybody dreads, talking about weaknesses and challenges. This guide has a rather interesting take on this. What is it?
Well, it emphasizes honesty and growth. So instead of trying to hide your weaknesses or pretend they don't exist, it's about framing them as areas you're actively improving. So instead of saying, oh, I'm a bit disorganized sometimes, you can say something like, one area I'm working on is improving my time management skills. To address this, I've started using a project management tool to prioritize tasks and track deadlines.
Oh, so you're turning it into a positive.
Exactly. You're acknowledging the weakness, but you're showing self-awareness and a proactive approach.
Yeah, that you're willing to actually work on yourself.
Exactly.
And I think that's something employers really appreciate.
Absolutely. It shows you're committed to continuous learning and growth.
Okay, so we've laid all this groundwork. Now we're getting towards the end of the interview, and we have a chance to ask some questions. This isn't just about sitting there waiting for them to wrap up. This is our chance to interview them, right?
Exactly. It's a two-way street.
So the guide here, it suggests some questions like, can you tell me more about the team I'd be working with? Now that seems pretty basic. What makes a question like that effective?
Well, you're going beyond just the responsibilities. Right. You're trying to get a sense of the company culture. What are the team dynamics like?
Okay.
Do they value collaboration? What are the communication styles like? And that can tell you a lot.
So it's like reading between the lines of the job description. You're not just thinking about what you're going to be doing, you're thinking about who you're going to be doing it with.
Exactly. You're going to be spending 40 plus hours a week with these people.
Right, right. Okay, and another question that it suggests is, what does a typical day look like for someone in this role? Again, seems pretty basic. What's good about that one?
Well, it shows that you're thinking practically, right?
Okay.
About the day-to-day realities of the job.
Yeah, and I like that one because it helps you kind of picture yourself.
Yes.
Like, am I going to be in meetings all day? Am I going to be like heads down at my computer?
Exactly. And then you can gauge whether the work style aligns with your preferences. Another great question the guide suggests is, how does this role contribute to the company's overall goals?
Oh, I like that one.
So again, you're showing that you're not just there for a paycheck. You're thinking big picture. How can your work make a meaningful impact?
Right. Like, I'm here to help you achieve your mission.
Yes, exactly.
But is there a risk of sounding too ambitious or overstepping with a question like that?
Not if it's genuine. Most employers appreciate when candidates are genuinely interested in the company's mission and how their role fits in.
Okay, so it's about finding that balance between being ambitious but also realistic.
Right.
Okay, so now we're wrapping up. how do we make sure we leave a really good final impression?
So the guide talks about expressing gratitude, reiterating your interest, but making sure it's authentic.
Okay, so not just the typical, like, thank you for your time.
Exactly.
What's something better?
You can say something like, I appreciate the opportunity to learn more about this role and how my skills can contribute to your team. So you're being more specific.
Right, so you're summarizing what you've learned and also connecting it back to how you can help them.
Exactly. And then if you want to go a step further, you can even offer to provide additional information.
Okay.
Like, please let me know if you need any further details about my experience or qualifications.
Okay.
But frame it as a genuine offer, not a demand.
Right. You don't want to come across as desperate.
Exactly.
Okay, so confidence but not arrogance.
Exactly. Those closing moments are just as important as the opening.
Right. All right, we've covered a lot of ground here, from like the minute you walk in the door to the minute you say goodbye. But this guide is more than just like a list of phrases to memorize, right?
Absolutely. It's about understanding the underlying principles of communication and applying those to the job interview.
So it's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between using these proven techniques and letting your authentic self shine through.
Well, that brings up another point, which is like authenticity, right? This guide keeps emphasizing the importance of being yourself. But how do you balance that with, you still want to come across as professional?
Yeah.
Where's the line?
Right.
How do you walk that tightrope?
Yeah. I mean, think about it this way. You can use the phrases and the techniques to help structure your responses.
Yeah.
And to highlight those strengths. But the content should come from a genuine place.
Oh, okay. So it's like you're using the guide as like a foundation.
Yes.
But then you're building on top of it.
Exactly. Like, let's say they ask you to describe a time you faced a challenge at work.
Yeah.
You could use that STAR method that we talked about.
Right.
To structure your answer.
Yeah.
But the specific challenge you choose to talk about and how you overcame it, that should come from your real life experience.
Right. So it's like you're using the tools.
Yes.
But then you're also letting your personality show through.
Exactly. Like, imagine you're at a dinner party and someone asks you about your work. You wouldn't just recite a list of phrases.
Right. You tell them a story.
Yeah, you tell a story, you talk about what you're passionate about.
Right.
It would be a natural conversation.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of energy you want to bring to an interview.
I see. So it's like being yourself, but like the best version of yourself.
Exactly. Because interviewers, they're not just looking for, someone who can do the job. They're also looking for someone who's going to be a good fit for their team.
Right. A cultural fit.
Exactly. So they want to know if you'd be a good addition, not just like a robot who can do the tasks.
Right. Okay. So really it's about being prepared, being professional, but also being genuine and enthusiastic.
Exactly. The guide is a great resource, for learning how to articulate those thoughts and experiences effectively.
Right.
But ultimately, it's your unique personality and passion that's going to make you stand out.
Okay. So I think to wrap up this deep dive into acing job interviews in English, the key takeaway is this. Master the techniques, use the phrases, but infuse them with your own personality and your own experience.
Well said. And don't be afraid to practice.
Oh, yeah.
The more you practice these phrases and you tailor them to your own stories, the more confident and authentic you're going to feel when that big day comes.
Right. Well, to all of our listeners out there who are preparing for the next big interview, we hope this has given you some valuable tools. Go out there, be yourself, and good luck. We'll see you next time for another deep dive. All right. Idioms. You want to sound like a natural English speaker, right?
Well, we're going to take a deep dive into the fascinating world of English idioms.
Yeah.
We've got a popular YouTube video here geared toward English learners, and it's our guide for this deep dive.
Okay.
And trust me, even if you consider yourself fluent, there are some real gems in here that might surprise you.
I bet.
We're talking about those colorful expressions that can really make your English pop.
Yeah.
Like spill the beans or saying something is a piece of cake. Ready? Let's go.
It's really amazing how idioms can add so much color and personality to language.
Right.
They go beyond the literal meaning of words and they tap into like a shared cultural understanding.
Yeah. Okay, so this video kicks off with everyday idioms, the kind you hear in casual conversations.
Yeah.
Let's start with break the ice. I mean, it's such a common phrase.
Right.
But have you ever thought about why we use it?
Well, what's fascinating about break the ice is that it highlights that awkwardness.
That we often feel at the start of social interactions.
Oh, totally.
It's like, imagine a frozen lake.
Okay.
Solid, impenetrable, right.
Yeah.
Breaking the ice is about creating a cracksel pry,
Yeah.
an opening
Yeah.
for connection.
That's a really cool way to think about it. It's
Yeah.
like that initial hesitation we feel when meeting someone new and breaking the ice. Is that way to find a way to connect, to get the conversation going?
Exactly. It could be a simple question, a joke, a shared observation,
Yeah.
anything that helps to just ease that tension
Right.
and create a more relaxed atmosphere.
Yeah, I like that.
So the video gives a great example. The host told a joke to break the ice at the party.
Yeah.
And that instantly makes everyone feel more comfortable.
Totally. And then there's spill the beans.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like this one is all about the element of surprise, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Spill the beans implies that there's a secret,
Yeah.
something juicy and exciting that someone is about to let slip. It's often used playfully like, come on, spill the beans. What's the big news?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny how it conjures up that image of beans scattering everywhere.
Yeah.
Like you just can't contain them once they're out.
That's a great visual, right?
Yeah.
And the video reminds us that this idiom,
Yeah.
it's usually used in lighthearted situations.
Okay.
Where the secret's reveal isn't really a big deal.
Right.
It's more about the anticipation
Yeah.
and the playful exchange.
Playful exchange, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now, under the weather always sounded so poetic to me. It's like you're describing a gloomy day, not your own health.
Right. Well, it's a great example of how idioms use metaphors to convey meaning.
Yeah.
So instead of bluntly saying, I'm sick, under the weather,
Yeah.
uses that imagery of weather
Yeah.
to suggest a feeling of being down
Right.
or unwell.
Okay.
It softens the blow
It does.
and adds a touch of subtlety to the conversation.
So it's like saying you're feeling a bit gray and drizzly
Yes.
instead of being outright stormy.
Precisely. And it's interesting how different cultures
Yeah.
have different ways of expressing illness.
Right.
In some languages, you might say you're feeling weak or tired,
Right.
but under the weather,
Yeah.
that adds that unique English flavor.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now for one of my personal favorites, piece of cake. This one always makes me smile, even though it's not actually about cake,
I know.
which is slightly disappointing.
Right.
But what piece of cake does brilliantly is it conveys that sense of ease and confidence. It's like saying, this task is so simple, it's like enjoying a delicious slice of cake.
Yeah.
The video gives a good example. The test was a piece of cake,
Yeah.
which instantly tells you that they found it effortless.
Easy peasy.
Right. It's almost like you're saying the task is so enjoyable. It's a treat,
Exactly.
not a dreaded chore.
Yeah.
Finally, we have hit the nail on the head,
Okay.
which to me is all about precision
Yes.
and accuracy.
It's a great way to acknowledge someone's sharp thinking or insightful observation.
Like, imagine you're in a meeting
All right.
and someone makes a point that perfectly captures the essence of the issue at hand. You could say, you hit the nail on the head,
Yes.
to express your agreement
Right.
and admiration for their clarity.
It's like you're saying they struck the target perfectly
Yeah.
with no room for error.
Exactly.
Yeah, no room for misinterpretation.
Right.
Powerful way to validate someone's contribution
Totally.
and highlight their understanding.
Okay, so we've covered some common everyday idioms.
Right.
Now, this video takes us into the professional realm
Okay.
with idioms that you might hear in a work setting.
Yeah.
I have a feeling these will be especially useful for anyone navigating the corporate world.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
These idioms can add a touch of sophistication
Yes.
and fluency to your professional communication.
Right.
They allow you to express complex ideas concisely and build rapport with colleagues.
I like it.
Let's start with burning the midnight oil. I'm sure we can all relate to this one.
Oh, absolutely. Those late nights trying to meet a deadline, we've all been there.
Burning the midnight oil paints such a vivid picture, doesn't it?
It does.
Evokes that image of someone working late into the night,
Yeah.
fueled by coffee and determination.
The coffee is key.
It's a much more evocative way of saying you worked late
Right.
than simply saying I stayed in the office until midnight.
Yeah, much more interesting.
Right. And it has that slightly romantic feel to it.
It does.
Like you're sacrificing sleep for the pursuit of something important.
I like that.
Yeah, it's just dedication and a strong work ethic.
For sure.
The video gives the example. I was burning the midnight oil to get this presentation ready,
Yeah.
which instantly conveys that sense of commitment and effort.
All right, next up we have a blessing in disguise,
Okay.
which is all about finding the silver lining in challenging situations. I think this one is so important for maintaining a positive outlook, especially in a high-pressure work environment.
It's a powerful reminder that setbacks can often lead to unexpected opportunities.
That's true.
A blessing in disguise suggests that what initially appears negative
Yeah,
might actually have positive consequences in the long run.
right.
The video shares the example.
Yeah.
Losing that job was a blessing in disguise. I found a much better one.
Ooh, I like that.
Right.
It's about reframing those difficult experiences and seeing them as potential catalysts for growth.
Absolutely.
Like saying, okay, this didn't go as planned,
Yeah,
but maybe it's redirecting me to something even better.
exactly. It's about embracing the unknown
Yeah.
and trusting that things often work out for the best, even when it doesn't seem like it at the time.
You got to trust the process.
You do.
Now, the ball is in your court is a classic idiom for teamwork and decision making.
Oh, for sure.
It's a really concise way to delegate responsibility without sounding bossy, right?
Absolutely. The ball's in your court clearly indicates a sheet and responsibility.
Okay.
It signifies that you've done your part. Right. And it's now up to someone else to take action.
Yeah.
Or make a decision.
So the video gives a clear example. I've given you all the information. Now the ball is in your court to make a decision.
Perfect.
It's like you're passing the baton in a relay race.
Yes.
You know, acknowledging that the next leg of the journey is in their hands.
Exactly. It empowers the other person to take ownership of the situation and move things forward.
Okay, next we have cutting corners, which, let's be honest, is something we all know we shouldn't do,
Yeah.
but might be tempted to do at times.
It's that classic dilemma of cutting corners implies taking shortcuts or compromising on quality to save time or effort.
Okay.
However, the video emphasizes that this often leads to negative consequences in the long run.
Oh, yeah.
Their example is quite stark. They cut corners on the safety inspection, and it led to a serious accident.
Wow. Yeah, so it really highlights the importance of integrity and attention to detail, especially in a professional context where mistakes can have far-reaching implications.
Exactly. Cutting corners might seem tempting in the moment,
Right.
but it can ultimately damage your reputation and erode trust.
Big time. Okay, and finally we have throw in the towel, which to me has a sense of finality,
Yeah,
like admitting defeat.
you're right. Throw in the towel signifies giving up or surrendering after a prolonged effort.
Okay.
It evokes that image of a boxer throwing their towel into the ring,
Yeah.
signaling their inability to continue fighting.
Wow, yeah.
It's a powerful idiom to use when describing a situation where further effort just seems futile.
Yeah, the video suggests using this idiom when you've exhausted all other options and have come to terms with the fact that it's time to move on.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging the reality of the situation
Okay.
and making a conscious decision to stop fighting a losing battle.
Right.
Sometimes throwing in the towel can be the smartest move,
Yeah,
freeing up energy and resources for more fruitful endeavors.
I like that.
Yeah.
So we've explored idioms used in both everyday conversations and professional settings.
Right.
Now the video takes us to the next level.
Ooh.
Advanced idioms.
Okay.
These are the expressions that really showcase a mastery of the English language.
These idioms demonstrate a deep understanding of the language's figurative aspects
Right.
and cultural nuances.
Yeah.
They allow you to express yourself with greater precision
Okay.
and sophistication.
Yeah.
Let's start with bite the bullet, which, despite its somewhat violent imagery,
Yeah.
is actually about facing challenges head on.
It's interesting how this idiom uses such a strong image
Right.
to convey the idea of confronting something unpleasant, like you're bracing yourself for impact.
Exactly. Bite the bullet implies facing a difficult or unpleasant task with courage and determination, even if you'd rather avoid it.
Of course.
The video uses the classic example of going to the dentist.
Okay.
Didn't want to go to the dentist, but I had to bite the bullet.
We've all been there.
Right. Sometimes you just have to grit your teeth and get it over with.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's about accepting the inevitable and taking action, even if it's uncomfortable.
Right.
On the same page is another essential idiom, especially when you're talking about teamwork and communication.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like this one's all about alignment and shared understanding.
Absolutely. On the same page means being in agreement with someone.
Yeah.
Having that shared understanding of a situation, a plan, or goal.
The video highlights the importance of ensuring that everyone is on the same page,
Right.
before starting a project to avoid any confusion or conflict later on.
Yeah, it's like making sure everyone is reading from the same script, so to speak,
Yes.
so that the performance runs smoothly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about establishing that shared vision
Right.
and working collaboratively toward a common goal.
Okay, now let the cat out of the bag.
Oh,
That sounds like a playful idiom,
it does.
but it can also have some unintended consequences, right?
But let the cat out of the bag means to accidentally reveal a secret.
Yeah.
It's often used in situations where the secret's reveal is unintentional
Right.
and perhaps even humorous.
Oh, okay.
The video gives the example of someone accidentally mentioning a surprise party
Oh, no.
to the person being surprised.
Oops. It's like that moment of realization when you know you've said something you shouldn't have,
Yeah,
and now the secret's out in the open.
exactly.
Yeah.
The cat is out of the bag and there's no putting it back in.
Nope. Okay, it's not. Rocket science is one of those idioms I find myself using all the time.
Right.
Probably because I'm not very good at rocket science.
It was a classic way to emphasize that something is not complicated
Right.
or difficult to understand.
Yeah.
It's a way of demystifying a concept and making it seem more approachable.
Yeah, I like that.
The video gives the example of learning to ride a bike. Learning to ride a bike is not rocket science. It just takes practice.
That's true. It's like saying, hey, this is actually pretty straightforward. Don't overthink it.
Exactly. It's about simplifying things.
Yeah.
And encouraging people to not be intimidated by something that might seem complex at first glance.
Right. And finally, we have go the extra mile, which is all about exceeding expectations
Yes.
and putting in that extra effort. I think this one is especially relevant in today's competitive world where standing out from the crowd is so important.
Go the extra mile signifies going above and beyond what's required
Right.
to achieve something or help someone.
It demonstrates a strong work ethic dedication and a willingness to exceed expectations.
For sure.
The video gives the example of a customer service representative who stays late to resolve a client's issue.
Right.
It's that level of commitment that really makes an impact.
Exactly. It's about going that extra step to ensure customer satisfaction, deliver exceptional results, or simply make someone's day.
Right.
You know?
Wow, this video has been packed with so many great idioms.
I know, right?
It's like we've unlocked a treasure chest of expressions that can make anyone sound more fluent and confident in English.
But remember, the key is to use them thoughtfully and appropriately.
Right.
The video makes a good point about avoiding overusing idioms.
Right. It's like adding spices to a dish.
Okay.
A little goes a long way.
Exactly.
Too much can be overwhelming.
The goal is to enhance your communication.
Right.
Not to sound like you're trying too hard
Yeah.
to impress.
And it warns against some common mistakes like mixing idioms
Oh, yeah.
or using them in the wrong context.
Like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Imagine saying something like, let's hit the beans and get this meeting started.
Or I was feeling under the cake after that long flight.
Wow, right. Those just don't work. It's important to understand the nuances of each idiom and use them with precision.
Yeah. Practice makes perfect.
It does.
The more you use these idioms in your daily conversations and writing, the more natural they will become.
Absolutely. So there you have it, a deep dive into the vibrant world of English idioms.
We went from everyday expressions to those sophisticated phrases. That demonstrated true mastery of the language.
Remember, idioms are more than just words.
They are.
They're glimpses into culture history and the art of communication.
Embrace their nuances.
Yes.
Use them wisely, and most importantly, have fun with them.
Happy learning.
Okay, so ever get totally tongue-tied trying to like haggle, snag a deal on a souvenir, or like even just asking for a different size in a store without just sounding like a robot.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Today, we are going to deep dive into a YouTube script that is all about conquering shopping.
Ooh.
In English, no matter what level you're at.
I love this.
So cool.
Yeah.
What's really cool about this script is it breaks it down based on how comfortable you are with English.
I like that. It's like levels.
It's like leveling up in a video game.
Yes. Like a language learning game. I love that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've got scenarios for everything from snagging a deal at a local market to politely asking for a receipt at the grocery store.
Okay.
But first, you got to know the terms.
Of course. Yeah.
Right.
You have to.
So let's say you're at a bustling market. You see an amazing scarf.
Oh.
You're the customer. The person selling the scarf is the vendor.
Yes.
And that little tag, that's the price tag.
Price tag, yeah. See, it's basic terms, but super important to know, to navigate any shopping situation.
Exactly. And even knowing those words right just helps you feel more confident,
Yes, 100%.
which is key when you're shopping in a different language.
Absolutely.
But the script doesn't stop there. It also gives you those essential post-purchase words like receipt, discount, and exchange.
Oh, that's smart.
Right.
Because if you need to return something or ask for a price reduction, it's like having these words in your back pocket.
It's like a secret weapon for any shopping adventure.
Exactly.
So we've got our shopping vocabulary down. Now let's put it into action. The script kicks off with a beginner-level scenario conquering the clothing store.
Ooh, fun.
Right. And it's all about those simple yet powerful phrases like, do you have this in a smaller size?
Oh, yeah.
Or how much is this? Like, these are the phrases that can make you feel like you can actually handle shopping in English.
Yes, and make you feel confident.
It's funny how even those basic phrases
Yeah.
can be so empowering.
They are.
It's like you're finally able to express yourself and get what you need.
Exactly.
But what's really interesting is that sometimes, even with these seemingly straightforward phrases,
Yes.
things can get lost in translation.
100%. That's so true. And it's really important to remember that while the phrases themselves are simple, like the way they're delivered in the context can change their meaning.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So for example, how much is this? Can come off as abrupt or even rude if you're not careful with your tone and body language.
Oh, totally. That's a great point. It's not just about knowing the words. It's about using them in a way that's appropriate for the situation and the culture.
Exactly.
So even at the beginner level, there are these subtle nuances that can really trip you up.
Yes.
And the script actually touches on that a bit.
I love that. Okay, so as you progress to the intermediate level, the script introduces phrases that require a deeper understanding of grammar and cultural context.
Okay.
Let's take the grocery run scenario. Okay, it has phrases for asking about quantities like, how much are these apples? And I'll take 2 pounds, please.
That's so useful.
Right.
Because figuring out quantities can be tricky, especially with different measurement systems.
Yeah, for sure.
And just the various ways we buy things, like produce and stuff. So it's those little details that can really make a difference in feeling confident.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the words themselves, it's about understanding the cultural norms around buying certain products. For example, in some cultures, it's perfectly acceptable to touch and inspect produce before buying it,
Right.
while in others it's considered rude.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's those unspoken rules that can be really hard to navigate when you're in a new environment.
It's true.
But this script helps you avoid those awkward moments by giving you the language and the cultural awareness you need.
I love that.
I especially love how it delves into asking for locations.
Yeah.
Like, where can I find the dairy section?
Yes.
Things like that.
And knowing how to ask for what you need and where to find it is such a key part of feeling comfortable in a store. It gives you a sense of control and independence.
For sure. And as you get more comfortable with the language and the cultural context, you can start to level up your shopping game even further. Which brings us to the advanced level, the art of bargaining.
Woo! Bargaining.
Right.
This is where things get really interesting because it's such a culturally dependent skill. In some cultures, it's expected and even enjoyed,
Yeah.
while in others, it can be considered offensive.
Oh, yeah.
It really depends.
It's almost like a dance, figuring out how to navigate those unspoken rules and expectations.
Yeah.
And the script does a great job of highlighting those cultural nuances, which could be super helpful for learners.
It really is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It provides those key phrases like, what's your best price for this? Or, can you give me a discount? But it also emphasizes the importance of being polite and respectful throughout the bargaining process.
Yeah, it's about finding that sweet spot
Right.
between being assertive
Yeah.
and maintaining a positive relationship with the vendor.
Yes, exactly.
But it's not always easy, especially when you're dealing with language and cultural barriers.
It's true. That's where the script's insights into cultural differences and negotiation tactics really come in handy. It helps you understand the subtleties of communication and avoid those potential faux pas.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. It's so important.
Like, for example, the script mentions that in some cultures, like Morocco, bargaining is almost like a ritual.
Oh, yeah.
It's a way to kind of like build rapport and like have a little fun with the vendor.
It is. It's like a playful back and forth where like both parties know they're not going to take the first offer seriously.
Right.
It's about finding that middle ground where everyone feels like they got a fair deal.
Whereas in other cultures, like Japan,
Yeah.
fixed prices are the norm and haggling can be seen as kind of disrespectful.
Totally. Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
So knowing those cultural differences can really make or break your shopping experience. Oh, yeah, for sure. It's those little cultural insights that can save you from a lot of awkwardness and help you connect with people on a deeper level. And this script is packed with those kinds of nuggets.
It even provides a sample dialogue to illustrate how to use those bargaining phrases in a real-life situation. It's like having a cheat sheet for navigating those tricky negotiations. But even with all the right phrases and cultural know-how, the script acknowledges that we're all human.
Of course.
And mistakes happen.
Mistakes happen all the time. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even the most experienced shoppers have those oops moments. The script highlights a few common mistakes to help you avoid those pitfalls.
Like forgetting to ask about the return policy.
Oh, yes.
Which can be a real headache if you need to exchange or return something later on.
Oh, for sure. Especially if there's a language barrier involved. It's always best to clarify those details up front, even if it feels a bit awkward. Better to be safe than sorry, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And another mistake the script mentions is being too aggressive when bargaining. You know, it's a delicate balance.
Yes.
Finding that line between being assertive and coming across as rude or disrespectful.
Yeah. And remember, bargaining is about building a relationship, not winning a battle. A little bit of humor and humility can go a long way in those interactions. Think of it like this. Would you rather buy something from someone who made you feel pressured or someone who made you feel respected?
Definitely the latter. It's about creating a positive experience for everyone involved.
Right.
And that brings us to the last mistake. The script highlights not checking the price tag.
Oh, yeah.
It seems obvious.
Yes.
But it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of shopping and make assumptions.
Right. Especially when you're in a new environment with unfamiliar currency or pricing systems. Always double check that price tag to avoid any surprises at the checkout. It's a simple habit that can save you a lot of hassle in the long run.
Absolutely. And speaking of helpful habits, the script also offers some bonus tips for shopping success.
Oh, nice.
It emphasizes the importance of practicing numbers, which might seem basic, but can be super helpful in a shopping context.
Oh, totally. Being comfortable with numbers, especially when it comes to prices and quantities, can make the whole shopping experience much smoother.
Right, because fumbling with numbers can add to that feeling of being overwhelmed or unsure of yourself.
Yeah.
And the script also encourages you to ask questions, which I love. It's all about taking charge of the interaction.
Yes.
And making sure you understand everything clearly.
Don't be afraid to clarify anything you're unsure about, whether it's the price, the size, the material, or even something as simple as the location of a specific item. Remember, shop assistants are there to help you.
And most of them are happy to answer your questions, even if you're still learning the language.
Oh, for sure.
It's all part of that cultural exchange.
Yes, it's true.
And last but not least, the script stresses the importance of staying polite throughout your shopping experience. Those simple pleases and thank yous can make a world of difference.
They really can. It shows respect, creates a positive atmosphere, and can even lead to better service or unexpected discounts. It's amazing how those small gestures can have such a big impact.
It's like a little secret weapon for building rapport and creating a more enjoyable experience for everyone involved. So we've covered a lot of ground today, from the nitty-gritty of vocabulary and phrases to the subtle art of navigating cultural differences and avoiding common mistakes.
We've explored the learner's journey from those hesitant first steps to confidently bargaining like a pro. But what I find most fascinating is how this script goes beyond just teaching the mechanics of shopping in English. It's like it unlocks a whole new level of confidence and connection. It gives you the tools to not only navigate those transactions, but to actually engage with the culture and the people around you.
And that can be such an empowering feeling. It's like you're finally able to express yourself and experience the world in a whole new way.
Exactly. And that feeling of independence and accomplishment, it ripples out into other areas of your life as well. It's like a domino effect of confidence.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into this amazing script, what's the key takeaway for our listener? What's the one thing we want them to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that shopping in English doesn't have to be a daunting task. With a little preparation and the right mindset, it can be an enjoyable and enriching experience.
You know what's really interesting about all of this?
Right.
The script focuses on like shopping in stores.
Yeah.
But these skills, like this confidence you're building,
Right.
it's applicable in so many other situations.
Oh, that's so true. Like, think about it. Ordering food at a restaurant, booking a hotel room, even just asking for directions. Those are all transactions in a way.
Exactly. You're using language
Right.
to communicate your needs
Yes.
and navigate a new environment.
100%.
And the strategies we've been talking about, the vocabulary,
Yeah.
the cultural awareness,
Yeah.
the confidence,
Like, totally.
they all transfer over.
They do. It's like you're developing a toolbox of communication skills that you can apply in all sorts of real-world situations.
And the more you practice, the more comfortable and confident you become.
So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, this is great for shopping, but what about other areas of my life?
Yeah.
Well, here's a little thought experiment for you.
Okay.
Think about a time you felt intimidated or unsure of yourself because of a language barrier.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it was like trying to order something specific at a cafe or asking for help at a train station.
Yes, totally.
Now imagine approaching that same situation
Okay.
with the same level of confidence and preparation
Yeah.
that you would bring to a shopping trip.
Right.
You've got your key phrases, you're aware of the cultural context,
Yeah.
and you're ready to engage in a friendly and respectful way.
Totally.
What would that feel like?
Right.
How would that change the interaction?
I think it would change it dramatically.
I bet you'd be surprised
Yeah.
by how much smoother and more enjoyable the whole experience could be. It's all about shifting your perspective and realizing that language learning isn't just about memorizing words and grammar rules. It's about empowering yourself to connect with the world around you in a meaningful way.
So to wrap up our deep dive into shopping like a pro in English, here's our challenge to you.
Okay, I love a challenge.
Take what you've learned today, those phrases, those cultural insights, and that newfound confidence,
Yeah.
and put them into practice.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to strike up a conversation, ask for what you need, and even try your hand at a little friendly bargaining.
A little bargaining, yes.
Remember, every interaction is an opportunity to learn and grow.
It is.
And who knows, you might just surprise yourself with what you're capable of.
That's so true.
Happy shopping, everyone,
Happy shopping.
and happy communicating.
Yes.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back. We're diving into something pretty interesting this time. We're looking at a YouTube script that's all about making appointments and reservations in English.
Oh, cool.
And it's actually kind of structured like a mini course.
Okay.
It takes you through phrases starting from beginner level and all the way to advanced
Huh. Interesting.
with real life examples along the way.
Yeah.
So before we get into it, think about a time when you had to make like an important appointment. Maybe it was for a job interview or a doctor's visit,
Right.
or even just to get a table at a really popular restaurant.
Yeah.
How confident did you feel going into that?
That's a great question to start off with. I think it really reminds us that even though the script is focusing on English, the idea behind it can apply to any language, really.
Right.
It's all about being able to communicate your needs and navigate these sometimes tricky social interactions.
For sure. And so this script starts with the basics. So those beginner phrases that we've all heard, things like, I want to make a reservation, or can I book a table for two?
Yeah.
They seem simple enough, but they can be used in so many situations.
Absolutely. And what's really great about them is that they give you that solid foundation.
Yeah.
They're basic, but they get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you're in another country and let's say you're trying to book a train ticket. Even with limited vocabulary, you can still get to where you need to go using those simple phrases.
Like a universal communication tool.
Exactly.
Just a few well-chosen words can open so many doors. Okay, so let's move on to the intermediate level.
Okay.
Here, this script adds a bit more detail and some more questions. Like, is there a slot available on date time? Or, can you confirm my appointment, please?
Ah, yes. I like to think of this as like I'm organized and I value your time level.
Okay.
Because it's not just about asking, it's also about taking charge of the interaction. So when you provide those specific details and you ask for confirmation, you're showing that you're proactive, that you pay attention to the details, which are really good qualities to have. They make a good impression in almost any situation.
I like that. Okay, so now for the advanced level.
Yeah.
I was really impressed by how the script actually uses really formal and really polite language. So phrases like, I'd like to inquire about availability, or could you kindly confirm the details?
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like putting on your best clothes, like a linguistic suit and tie.
I like that. I agree with you. Imagine this. You're emailing like a potential client, or maybe you're trying to reschedule a really important meeting. Using phrases like that can really show the other person that you respect their time and that you're taking things seriously.
It's like you're speaking their language.
Yeah.
Like the language of being professional and courteous.
Exactly. And, it's not just about sounding professional.
Right.
A lot of times, formal language uses kind of indirect phrasing, and that can come across as being more polite and considerate. Like instead of saying, can you, maybe try saying, could you kindly?
Yeah.
And it kind of softens things up a bit and makes you not sound demanding.
It's a good point. It's not just about using big words.
No.
It's also about creating a connection,
Hmm.
and setting the right tone for whatever you're doing. It makes me wonder if even in our everyday conversations with friends, being a little more thoughtful about the words we choose could help to make things clearer and avoid those misunderstandings.
Yeah, for sure. It's like choosing the right clothes for the right event.
Okay.
You wouldn't wear a swimsuit to a job interview, would you?
Yeah.
The same way you wouldn't use slang when you're trying to make a good impression or when you're talking about something serious.
Such a good analogy.
Right.
So maybe we don't all have to be experts in language, but being careful about the words we use and how they sound to other people in different situations, I think is really valuable.
Absolutely. And that leads us to something that the script points out, and that's common mistakes, like forgetting to confirm your booking, using slang when you shouldn't. These little things can actually have big consequences.
Oh, yeah.
I bet we've all had those moments where a little miscommunication led to like a scheduling nightmare.
Totally. But I think it's great that this script doesn't just list out those mistakes.
Yeah.
It also shows you how to avoid them.
Yes.
And that's where the acted out scenes come in.
Exactly.
I'm so excited to talk about those next.
I think those scenes are where you really see these ideas in action.
Yeah.
They take all these phrases and show you how to actually use them.
I agree. And that's what I love about this script. It's not just telling you the grammar.
Yeah.
It's practical. I'm already picturing myself using those beginner phrases to book a train ticket on my next trip to Europe.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see how those phrases work in more difficult situations. So let's take a look. So in the beginner scene, we see someone trying to book a table for dinner, and it shows how just those basic phrases can be surprisingly useful.
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes less is more.
Totally.
Yeah.
But what about when things get a little trickier?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the scene at the doctor's office where they use those intermediate phrases to, pick a date and a time.
That's a great example because that scene really shows you how using more detail can make things clear for everyone.
Okay.
And it shows that you're being respectful of everyone's time.
Right.
Because you've actually thought about it before.
I'm definitely going to start confirming every appointment from now on. But I'm really interested in that advanced scene.
Yeah.
The one where they're booking a hotel room. They used some really complex language in that one.
They did. They used phrases like inquire about availability and kindly confirm the details.
Right. Which is very different from those basic phrases.
Totally.
It's almost like a secret language for being polite.
Yeah.
But part of me wonders if it's a bit much.
Yeah.
Do you ever think it could sound too formal?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It really is all about finding that right balance.
Yeah.
And it depends on the situation.
Okay.
Yeah, because while formal language usually sounds professional and courteous, it might not always be the right fit.
Right.
Like, if you're hanging out with a close friend, you wouldn't use super formal language because it might make things feel weird.
So it's like a dress code, like you were saying before.
Exactly.
Like sometimes it's business casual and sometimes it's black tie.
Exactly. That's what makes these scenes so helpful because they show you how these phrases would actually be used.
Yeah.
And they help you understand those unspoken parts of communication, too.
It's interesting. We've been talking a lot about the words themselves.
Yeah.
But we haven't really talked about the other stuff that those scenes show.
What do you mean?
Like how your tone of voice can change things or your facial expressions or even body language.
Right. All of that plays a huge role in how people see your message.
Absolutely.
And even small changes in your tone or body language can change how people understand what you're saying.
It makes you realize that communication is like a back and forth. You're always sending and receiving signals.
Yeah.
Even when you're focusing on what you're saying, you have to pay attention to how the other person is reacting and change your approach.
It's like dancing.
Oh, okay.
You have to know what your partner's doing and where they're going next.
Okay. I'm adding become a better communication dancer to my list of things to learn.
Uh-huh.
But really, I think this whole deep dive has been about how important it is to be flexible in how you communicate.
Absolutely.
It's not about memorizing a bunch of rules. It's about knowing how to choose the right way to speak depending on the situation.
This script gives you a framework for making those appointments and reservations,
Yeah.
but you can actually use these ideas in a lot of different situations.
Okay.
Think about it. If you're negotiating your salary, or if you're trying to sell a business idea, or even if you're having a tough conversation with someone you care about,
Right.
those ideas of being clear, being confident, and knowing who you're talking to are always important.
So it's like you have all these communication tools and you're learning how to use them.
Exactly. And remember that practice makes perfect. The more we use these ideas, the easier it will become.
It's not just about learning a few phrases.
Yeah.
It's about becoming a better communicator overall.
Yes. I remember this one time when I totally messed up an important meeting because I forgot to double check the time and date. Let's just say I learned my lesson.
Oh, I can relate to that. I once sent an email to a potential client, and I used this emoji that I thought was friendly, but it ended up looking unprofessional.
It happens. But I think those mistakes show us how important it is to think carefully about how we communicate.
Yeah.
Even when it seems like something simple, a small mistake can really mess things up.
Right. So always double check those details and be aware of who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that really stood out to you from those scenes before we move on?
You know, I think one thing that really jumped out at me was how those scenes showed you how important it is to pay attention to the other person.
Oh, interesting. It's not just about saying your lines.
Yeah.
It's also about watching their body language.
Okay.
Like, are they in a hurry? Or do they seem confused? Are they being formal or informal?
It's true. You have to constantly be reading the room and changing how you talk.
Right. It's like a dance where you're always sending and receiving signals.
I like that.
And even when you're trying to get your point across, you still have to be aware of how the other person is feeling and adjust accordingly.
Exactly. It really is like dancing. You have to pay attention to your partner and try to guess what they're going to do next.
Okay, so I'm putting become a better communication dancer on my to-do list.
Uh-huh.
But seriously, I think the main takeaway from this whole deep dive is how important it is to be flexible when you're communicating.
Absolutely.
It's not just about following a set of rules. It's more about understanding the situation and using the right words for that moment.
You know, this script gave us some good ways to make appointments and reservations, but those same ideas can be used in so many other situations. Whether you're trying to get a raise at work, or pitching an idea for a new business, or having a difficult conversation with someone.
Right.
Being clear, being confident, and knowing who you're talking to are so important.
So it's like having a communication toolkit and learning how to use those tools.
Exactly. And remember, the more you use them, the better you'll get.
So it's not just about memorizing a few phrases. It's about learning to be a more confident communicator.
Before we finish, I have a question for you to think about.
What?
How could you use these communication skills to deal with a tough situation you might have in your own life?
That's a great question for everyone listening. Because at the end of the day, communication is about connecting with people and achieving your goals.
Well said.
And that's a wrap for our deep dive on making appointments and reservations. Don't forget, with a little bit of practice, anyone can become a great communicator. Until next time. Okay, have you ever noticed, like, how often we have to introduce ourselves?
All the time, right.
Yeah, but it can be so awkward.
Oh, absolutely. Especially, you know, meeting new people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what do you even say? And it can be even harder when you're trying to do it in English if it's, not your first language.
Right, right. First impressions are everything, though, so we really should get this right.
Which is why this deep dive is perfect. We found this guide, and it's got some really good tips. So let's jump right in.
Yeah, let's do it. What I found really interesting is that it doesn't even start with, like, what you say.
Wait, really? I was all ready to, practicing my elevator pitch and all that.
Nope. First things first. Nonverbal cues.
Like, what? Body language and stuff?
Exactly. Smiling and eye contact. The source is really big on those.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
A smile can make you seem more approachable.
It's more than that, though. It's like, when you meet someone and their smile just kind of lights up the room?
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
It's that kind of energy. This guide talks about the Duchenne smile, which is a specific type of smile that uses the muscles around your eyes.
So it's not just a fake smile, it's got to be genuine.
Exactly. And there's research showing that a Duchenne smile makes you seem more trustworthy,
Oh, wow. So like in a job interview, a good smile could be a huge advantage.
Oh, totally. Okay, so you've got the smile down, good eye contact. Now we can talk about the actual words.
Finally. Lay it on me.
Start with the basics, your name, where you're from, what you do. But then...
There's a but then.
Okay, I'm intrigued. The guide suggests adding one interesting fact about yourself.
Ooh, I like that. That's how you stand out, right?
Yeah, it's all about making yourself memorable.
But what kind of interesting fact? Like, I feel like this could go wrong easily.
It definitely could. The key is authenticity. It's got to be something genuinely you, not just something you think sounds impressive.
So, like, I like to read is probably not going to cut it.
Unless you're reading, like, ancient scrolls in their original language, probably not. Think about hobbies, passions, maybe a funny story that's short and sweet.
So it's like a little sneak peek into your personality. Okay, I'm getting this. So we've got the smile, the basics, the interesting fact. What's next?
Now, this might seem a little counterintuitive,
Whoa.
but the guide is big on politeness, like, it's nice to meet you, or how are you today, kind of stuff.
Okay, but how is that going to make me seem confident? It seems so basic.
It's subtle. Think about it. If you're nervous, you might rush through the intro, right? Sound a little abrupt.
Yeah, that's totally me.
But taking a moment to be polite, it shows you're comfortable, respectful.
Yeah. So it's like, even though the words themselves are simple, they're sending a message about how I'm feeling.
Exactly. You're present in the moment, not just trying to get the intro over with.
Okay, I can see that. I never thought about it that way before.
It can make a big difference, especially if you're meeting someone for the first time. Now, the next part is where things get really interesting. This is where we tailor the introduction based on the context.
Context,
Yeah.
like who I'm talking to and why.
Exactly. The guide talks about focusing on either your goals or your interests.
Okay, so goals. When would I want to lead with those?
Like, imagine you're in a job interview.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. You want to seem ambitious.
Exactly. So instead of just saying your job title, you might say something like, I'm passionate about whatever your field is, and I'm really excited to see how I could contribute to your team.
That's way better than just, hi, I'm your name, I'm an accountant.
Right.
Yeah.
You're showing them where you want to go, not just where you've been.
Okay, so flip side.
Yeah.
When would I talk about my interests?
Think more like a social setting, a party, networking event.
Where you actually want to have a conversation with people.
Right. So I'm an accountant isn't going to be a great opener there.
No kidding.
Uh-huh.
I can already feel the awkward silence.
But what if you said something like, I spend my days crunching numbers, but my real passion is restoring vintage motorcycles. I'm actually working on a 60s Triumph right now.
Okay, now that's a conversation starter.
Right. It shows there's more to you than just your job. People connect with that.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to introductions. It's not just about getting information across, it's about creating a connection.
Exactly. Okay, ready for the next tip.
Hit me.
End your intro with a question.
Oh, good one. But not like a yes-no question, right? Those are conversation killers.
You got it. The guide is all about open-ended questions.
So instead of do you like movies, I should ask, what kind of movies are you into?
Exactly. It invites a real response, plus it shifts the focus to the other person.
Which takes the pressure off me. But there's got to be more to it than that, right? Like, what's the psychology behind it?
Well, think about it. When you ask a good open-ended question, you're giving them a chance to share something about themselves.
And people like talking about themselves.
Most do. It's a subtle way of making them feel good, and it encourages them to engage with you.
So I'm making them feel good. They're more likely to want to keep talking to me. Smart.
It's all about those subtle cues. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've got the smile, the basics, the interesting fact, politeness, tailoring to the context, and ending with a question.
Phew. My head's spinning, but in a good way. It's amazing how many things I was doing wrong before.
We all do it, but there's one more crucial piece to this puzzle.
I have a feeling I know what it is. Practice.
You got it. Even with the best material, you got to practice to make it feel natural.
Okay, so that's what we'll tackle next time.
Exactly. We'll get into some specific strategies for practicing introductions so you can nail them every time.
So we've got all these great tips for introductions, but I don't know about you, but I get nervous. Like I can totally see myself fumbling over my words in the moment.
Oh yeah, me too. That's why practice is so important.
Right. But it's not just about memorizing a script, is it?
Not at all. It's more about, really getting comfortable with the ideas, making them second nature.
Like building muscle memory, but for talking.
Yeah, exactly. It's like learning to dance or something. At first, you're all stiff and awkward, but the more you practice...
The more you just kind of flow with it.
Yeah, exactly. You're not even thinking about the steps anymore. You're just feeling the music.
Okay, so how do we actually practice this? I mean, talking to the mirror only gets you so far.
It depends what you're prepping for. Like, for a job interview, role-playing can be super helpful.
Oh, right. Like, get a friend to be the interviewer, put you on the spot.
Yeah, exactly. That way you get used to the pressure. Oh, and another good one is to record yourself.
Ugh. I hate listening to recordings of myself.
They know it's painful. But you can really hear things you wouldn't notice otherwise.
Like all my ums and ahs, probably.
Yeah, those filler words. You can work on smoothing them out.
It's true. I've done that for presentations at work, and it really helps. Wait, you know what else could be good? Maybe, like, hiring a coach.
Oh, yeah, there are totally coaches who specialize in this kind of stuff.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I had no idea. But it makes sense. It's like we invest in learning so many other skills. Why not communication?
Right. It's so important. But okay, for more everyday stuff, like just meeting new people, you can practice in lower stakes situations.
Lower stakes.
Yeah, like chat with the barista at your coffee shop or the cashier at the store.
Just get used to striking up conversations.
Exactly. It's good practice. Plus, you might brighten someone's day.
Okay. I like that. It's less scary than, like, a networking event.
Right. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
I was starting to get this. It's really a whole mindset shift, isn't it? It's not just about the words. It's about how you approach those first interactions.
Yeah, for sure. It's about showing up authentically and confidently.
Right. Okay. Let's do a quick recap of everything we've talked about today.
Okay, so starting with nonverbal cues, the Duchenne smile. Good eye contact.
Makes you seem approachable and trustworthy.
Yeah. Then we layer in those basic details. Name, where you're from, what you do.
But then the magic happens. We add that one interesting fact to make ourselves stand out.
And don't forget the politeness. It might seem basic, but it actually sends a really important message.
Right, like you're calm, you're respectful, you're not just rushing to get it over with.
Exactly. And then, depending on the situation, we highlight either our goals or our interests.
Goals for job interviews, to show ambition, interests for social settings, to spark a conversation.
Exactly. And to finish strong, that open-ended question.
Keeps the conversation flowing and makes the other person feel good. It's genius.
And don't forget about practice.
Oh, yeah, I got to practice, practice, practice.
Whether it's role-playing, recording ourselves, or just chatting with people in everyday situations.
This has been so helpful. I'm actually starting to feel excited about introductions now, not just terrified.
That's great. And earlier you mentioned something about going beyond spoken introductions.
Oh, yeah, you said these ideas could be applied to, like, online profiles and stuff. I want to hear more about that.
We'll dive into all that next time.
Yeah, so it's not just about, like, what you say when you meet someone face-to-face.
Exactly. It's bigger than that.
So, like, my LinkedIn profile, that little About Me section that I always struggle with.
Think of that as an introduction, too.
Okay. So instead of just listing my skills and experience.
You can use those same principles we've been talking about. The interesting fact, maybe even ending with a question that encourages people to connect with you.
Ooh, that's clever. Like what kind of question?
Maybe something like, I'm really passionate about mentoring new designers, so if you're just starting out in the field, feel free to reach out.
Oh, I like that. It's inviting, but also shows what I care about.
Right. And it could spark conversations, lead to collaborations.
Yeah, I'm seeing my whole online presence differently now. It's like every interaction is a chance to make a first impression.
That's a great way to think about it. And don't forget email introductions, too.
Oh, yeah. Those can be awkward.
Instead of just, hi, I'm so-and-so, attached as my resume.
It's news?
Right. You can briefly mention a shared interest or how your skills connect to their needs.
So you're standing out from all those other generic emails.
Exactly. It all comes back to being memorable and showing your personality.
This has been so eye-opening. I feel like I've got a whole new arsenal of communication tools now.
That's the goal. Remember, though, confidence takes practice.
Yeah, it's not like I'll suddenly be amazing at all of this overnight.
Of course not. But the more you use these strategies, the more natural they'll feel. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Experiment.
Yeah, like try different approaches and see what works best for you. Every situation is a little different, right?
That's true. And I guess, like, the more I practice, the less I'll overthink it and the more I can just be myself.
Exactly. That's the key. Authenticity. People connect with that. When you're genuine, it shines through.
Okay, I'm going to try to remember that. No more hiding behind generic intros.
That's the spirit. Go out there and rock those first impressions.
I will. This has been such a fantastic deep dive. Thank you so much for all these insights.
My pleasure. It's been fun exploring all this with you. And hey, remember, the more you practice, the more confident you'll become. And that confidence will spread.
Oh, I like that. So by being more confident in ourselves, we might actually help other people feel more confident too.
Exactly. It's like a ripple effect. So go out there, make those connections, and watch the confidence grow.